Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video with Coding with Roby. And in this Python Bootcamp video, we're going to learn about lists. Well, lists are just a collection of data. What we've been through so far is a variable may hold a specific data, whether that's a string, or an integer, or a floating point number. But now we're going to say a variable is equal to multiple amounts of data. And this is what we call a list. So let's start by creating a new variable, myList, which is equal to, and now we have to use normal brackets. And inside, each data point needs to be separated by a comma. So 80, 96, 72, 100, and 8. And now right under my list, let's just print my list. Save the file, right click and run lists. And we can see that in our terminal, we get 80, 96, 72, 100, and 8. Now this is a list holding all integers. A list can also hold strings. So right under this, let's say people list is equal to, again brackets, and this time I'm going to create 3 strings, Eric, Adel, and Jeff. And now right under people list, I'm just going to print people list. If we right click this and run lists, we now get Eric, Adel, and Jeff printed right under our myList list. Now, what's cool about lists, we are able to dynamically use any kind of index of the data we would like. Now, an index is the specific location within a list, and it always starts with 0, and that can sometimes trick people. So remember, an index of a list always starts with 0. So 80 is at the index of 0, 96 is at the index of 1, 72 is at the index of 2, 100 is at the index of 3, and 8 is at the index of 4, and even though there are 5 elements in this list, there is no index of 5. We can prove this by, right after my list, if we do another bracket and we type in the index, it's going to print that specific index of the list, not the entire list. So if we right click and run now, we'll see that it only prints 80 to the terminal, not all 5 elements. If we pass in 1, we're going to see 96. If we pass in 2, we're going to get 72. If we pass in 3, we will get 100. And if we pass in 4, we will get 8. And if we pass in 5, we're going to get an error as this list index is out of range. And now we can also do the same thing with strings. If we type in just 1 and we run the application, we're going to get Adel printed to the terminal. Now there are some secrets that you can use when dealing with these indexes. If you pass in -1, it's going to grab the last element in the index no matter how long the list is going to be. You can also change the element of the index. So I'm going to change this back to 0, and right before we print people list at the 0 index, I'm going to say people list at the index of 0 is now equal to Mel. And now if we print the 0 index after changing it from Eric to Mel, we now see that it changes to Mel. We can now find the length of a list by using the length function over the people list. So if we remove this index and right before people we say len for length, we do an open parenthesis, and then we close the parenthesis, and we run the application, we can see that now it prints 3, and that's because there are 3 elements within the list. Index-wise, it might be 0, 1, 2, but overall, there are 3 elements in the list. Now I'm going to just say print people list. And now we're going to be learning something called slicing. And slicing means you're only going to present specific data of the list that you want to show. So maybe that's only the first 2 elements, or maybe this last 3 elements, or whatever it could be. It's infinite amount of possibilities. However, we can do that by again doing brackets. And now inside, I'm going to say 0, colon, 2. If we run this application, you can see we get Eric and Adel. And how you can read this 0, colon, 2 is that it starts at the 0 index, which is Eric, and it ends at the 2 index, which is Jeff, but it does not include Jeff. So the last number it does not include. So it says print 0, print 1, but do not print 2, stop at 2. If we jumped up here and did my list in the numbers, and we did 0, colon, 2, and we ran it, it's going to print 80 and 96, but stop at 72. If we now change this to 4, it's going to print 80, 96, 72, and 100, but stop at 8 because 8 is the 4th index, but the 5th element. And you can also change the first number by jumping up here and saying 2. We get 72 and 100 because 0, 1, start at 2, 100, end at 4. And now let's learn about inserting and deletion. So I'm going to redo our application. Now it just prints our list of all the elements. We can use append, and the append functionality adds an element at the end of the list. So if we say mylist.append 1000, and now we print my list, we're going to get 80, 96, 72, 108, and 1000 was appended at the end of the list. We can also say insert, which means we insert a number at the specific element. And now if we say mylist.insert and then parentheses 2 and 1000, and then print my list, we can see that 1000 was added at the 2nd index. So 0, 1, at the 2nd index we inserted 1000, 72, 108, and then 1000. So all the other elements were just shifted to the right. Now we can say mylist.remove 8. And when we say remove functionality, that's going to delete the value of 8 from the list. So 8 will be automatically removed. It's not looking for the index, it's looking for the element with the value of 8. We can also say mylist.pop, which when you use the pop instead of the remove, it's now looking at the index. So if we say mylist.pop 0, it's going to remove the index of 0 from the list. So in this example, we can see that 80 was removed because we popped it away. And then lastly, there's a sort functionality where mylist will be able to sort numeric values from least to greatest. So if we under here said mylist.sort and then print my list, we can now see that the entire list was sorted starting at 72, which is the lowest value, 96, 100, and then 2 values of 1000. Now, lists and collection of data we use literally all the time in development. So it's extremely important to at least understand what a list is. This wraps up this lecture on lists, and I will see you in the next video.